Guys, the action in the heavens hasn't even started yet. The real action that we see happens after the conjunction between Venus and Jupiter, which is on the 12th of November, and I'm going to go through that later on in this video. Hey guys, it's October the 16th, and the Revelation chapter 12 sign is signifying the rapture of the church. Nothing has changed. The only thing we do know is that the rapture of the church is not going to be fulfilled on a feast day. But there are some very interesting things which are coming up and which we should be looking at. So I know a lot of people were disappointed because it went from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur and then to Shemini Atzeret and the 8th day. But look at how much we've learned over these few short weeks about the feasts. The brethren have dug out some amazing things which were incredible revelation about these days that we didn't know before. And I've certainly learned a lot as we've gone along, and it's been a great joy to engage with other people who are looking at the sign and who believe that this is the sign of the rapture of the church, and that's not going to stop. So what I'd like to do is go over the next few interesting dates and the reason why we should be looking at these dates, and the reason why I will be watching out on these particular days, and hopefully you will see that the sign is not over. So I just want to start off first of all with the reason why I'm convinced that the sign is not done is because of one very simple thing that a lot of people are overlooking, and they're looking in every direction apart from what is directly in front of them. Mars is the red dragon. Mars is the representation of the red dragon, just like Jupiter is the church, and it's obviously not the literal church, but Jupiter is the representation of the church. Mars is the representation of the red dragon. The Bible wouldn't be associating a sign in the heavens to something that we cannot see. We can see clearly in verse 1 and 2 that the association is with a known body in the heavens, and logic would mandate that the same thing applies to the red dragon. Mars is red. I've already released a video which contains some compelling reasons why Mars is the red dragon, and I'm going to release another video which has even more reasons. So one of the things that I've seen people do is associate Mercury with Gabriel and Michael with Mars, and I think that that's a mistake, because there's no doubt that in antiquity the ancients believed that Mars was a planet of death, a planet of destruction, a planet that was nefarious, a malefic planet, a bad actor. And the reason for that was because that when Mars pitched up and was in certain conjunctions, bad things used to happen. So I understand why people would associate Gabriel with Mercury and Mars with Michael because of the Bible, and that makes sense from a very basic point of view. But the problem is that once we do that, we start losing the interpretation of what God is trying to tell us in the heavens. If God is trying to tell us a story in the heavens, there needs to be both benefic, good players, and malefic, bad players. So once you start assigning good attributes to everything that we see in the heavens, you start losing the ability to interpret. And we know for certain that Mars was the lord of the underworld. It was the planet of death, destruction, famine, and plague. So we can't just associate Michael with Mars, and because we feel that that's good to do, because that would then mean that we are extremely limited in our interpretations of things which are going on in the heavens, because nothing is bad. A lot of people have said that the red dragon is Nibiru, or it's the Draconoid meteor shower, or all these things which they can't see. And I don't really understand why people don't associate Mars with the red dragon. So I will continue to be of the opinion that Mars is the red dragon, having read many books which confirm this, and I'll put more information in that Mars red dragon video. So let's have a look at the next date which is coming up. I've put all of this in a spreadsheet so that you can study this and go over this yourself as well, separately in your own time. So the first date I would be looking at is on November the 2nd. So as we go to November the 2nd, that is when Venus is birthed from Virgo, and you can see Mars is still in the picture there, and the Sun is just going into Libra. On the 2nd of November, the Hebrew date for this is the 13th of Chesvan. There is also, you will see, a full moon which is in Pisces. And here we can see at 8 p.m. there's a full moon in Pisces. In Proverbs 7:19 it says, "The good man is not at home. He's gone away on a far trip. He's taken a bag of money with him, and he will return on a full moon." And in Revelation chapter 6 verses 12, "And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood." So we assume that that would be a full moon, which John is talking about there. And on this day we see a full moon, along with, as we mentioned before, Venus being birthed out of the birth canal of Virgo. The next very interesting date I would like to show you is on November the 6th. So looking at this, it doesn't look that interesting, but November the 6th, and the reason why I think this is an important day to be watching, is because this is the 17th of Chesvan. And the 17th of Chesvan is the 17th of the 8th month, and the 17th of the 8th month used to be the 17th of the 2nd month. When the Israelites came out of Egypt, God instituted the new calendar, and the first month became the 7th month, and the second month became the 8th month, etc. So the 8th month that we see today would have been the 2nd month before the Exodus. And if we read in Genesis 7:11, it says, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened." So on November the 6th, this is the 17th of Chesvan, the same day that Noah's floods began. This day also we see Mercury entering into Scorpio, and Scorpio represents the conflict. And we see Mercury going into Scorpio on this day. And most importantly, with regards to the 17th of Chesvan, or when Noah's flood began, we see that the moon is in Taurus, and Taurus is the judgment. So on November the 6th, which will be the 17th of Chesvan, also on this day, is 77 days from the Great American Eclipse. It is 44 days from the Revelation chapter 12 sign. The full moon is in Taurus, which is judgment, and this is also exactly 7 days after the 500-year anniversary of the Reformation. So I would look out to see if something happens on the day of Reformation, or the anniversary of Reformation. Will also be Halloween, which is the 31st of October. So interestingly, Halloween and the 500th year anniversary of the Reformation fall on the same day. If there is a death on this day, a significant death, somebody who is prolific, it would be interesting, because that would mean 7 days. Methuselah died before the 17th of Chesvan, so he would have died on the 10th of Chesvan, which is on the 500th year anniversary of the Reformation and Halloween. So on that day, if there's a significant death on that day, then it could potentially mean that it's game on. So it's just something to look out for, and for interest's sake, I mention it. The next day, and the most interesting one that everybody is looking at, is on the 12th to the 13th of November. So the 12th to the 13th of November is the 23rd of Chesvan, and interestingly, again, we're on the number 13, which was the 13th of October, which was the Friday, and now we're on the 13th of November, which is the same as the 23rd of Chesvan, and we know that the Revelation 12 sign happened on the 23rd of September. So what's interesting on this day is that there is a major conjunction with Venus and Jupiter right on the border of Libra, and Libra is obviously the scales. It can be seen either as judgment, or it can be seen as the Holy Tabernacle or the Holy Altar or the throne room. Ballinger says in his book that this has been misnamed and it represented the throne room. So on November the 12th to the 13th, we see there's this conjunction between Venus and Jupiter. So I'm on the 12th now, and on the day of the 13th, Venus will enter into Libra. Just at about midnight, it will enter into Libra on the day of the 13th. So also interesting on this day is that this is 50 days away from the Revelation chapter 12 sign. Mercury moves into Ophiuchus, and Saturn is very much close to moving into Sagittarius. So that is November the 13th. The interesting thing about this is that Venus and Jupiter will very shortly leave Virgo. So you could look at this as being the very, very last time. If God wanted to reserve judgment until the very last moment that as many people be saved, you can see Venus and Jupiter exiting into the sign of Libra would be a good representation of that very last moment of the sign coming into fulfillment. Also here we see probably the strongest case of the dragon, which I believe is Mars before the woman. And we also see that the moon this night from the 12th to the 13th is moving from Leo into Virgo. So here's the position of the moon, and we see the moon going from Leo into Virgo, while Venus goes from Virgo into Libra at the bottom left. And Mars, which I believe is the red dragon, is before the woman in the strongest sense of the terms now. So after the 12th of November, everything goes pretty crazy. What I've done is I've put a object path mapping on the planets, and you can see that everything really goes off in the heavens after this. So you can see Venus moves on, and as Jupiter enters into Libra, you see Saturn entering into Sagittarius, and it's my belief that Sagittarius is the representation of the Antichrist. We can see that there is a rider on a horse with a bow and a crown, and Saturn is now entering into that constellation. Mercury, you'll see as I go forward, is about to go into retrograde motion. It's pointing towards Saturn, and as this occurs, Mars goes into the side of Virgo at the right hand side over here. So as I go forward, watch what happens. So Saturn is now entering into Sagittarius, and Mars is entering into the side of Virgo. Venus is going through Libra, and it's in the center of the scales, and Jupiter is making its way forward towards that same position. Mercury over here is going into retrograde motion and pointing towards Saturn. It's going towards Saturn in retrograde motion. Okay, so there it is addressing or saying that this is the message of something here. It goes into retrograde motion, and it goes around Venus, and you can see Venus then overtakes it. So does the moon. You can see the moon is just here slightly, and Mercury is still in retrograde motion, and now Venus is just about to enter into Sagittarius, and Mercury starts going backwards from retrograde motion or back into normal motion, and Jupiter is now entering into the middle of the scales in Libra. And here is something major which is just about to happen. You see Jupiter and Mars right in the center of the scales of Libra on January the 6th or the 7th. I don't know what's going to happen on that day, but it looks like something major is going to happen. So you can see everything really starts going crazy in the heavens after the 12th to the 13th of November. So what I've done, guys, is I have uploaded this spreadsheet to Google Docs, and I'll make this available for everyone to be able to go through and study at their leisure, and then they can look at it in Stellarium if you like. And I've detailed all the interesting things about each of these dates, and I will hopefully give you some more updates as we go along in the future. Oh.